Okay, good morning. In this video, we're going to look at the NASDAQ futures and how to trade them using prediction points. So let's jump over and look at the chart here. And I want to talk through some ideas, some of the methodology behind it. Also, if you are a member of Day Trade Like a Pro and you're in the Discord channel, feel free to post in the NQ Trader Talk if you have any questions, and I will try and answer those. I have that pulled up on my other monitor so I can see that. So what we're looking at is really just a 2-minute chart, and I did 2 minutes because I wanted to see the fluctuations. We could even do a minute, but I wanted to see the fluctuations here. So let's see here. All right, so in here we have, all right, so let's look in the pre-market, what's going on. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller, which is going to be a little bit tricky to see the candle by candle, but we just want to see the swings. That's really what we're going to be looking at here. Okay. So, hey, if you are in the Discord channel, will somebody just give me a message in Discord? Okay, so I think it's working now. Okay, so I wasn't quite sure if it was working because the data for the stream in on YouTube doesn't look quite right. It didn't look quite right, so I think it's working now. All right. Okay, great. So it's working. Okay, so I wanted to make sure that was going to be working. All right, so let me just talk specifically about prediction points. I have key turns on here because it's something that I use. It's one of the indicators that we have. And so that information for me is quite helpful. I like to have it on there. I like to be able to see that. So we have... here's this above this KP right here in the overnight session. We have key turns. Above that, we have this CP up here. And if you've watched any of my videos around prediction points, you know that this is something that I will do, is draw these fib levels in here. And a lot of traders like this 50% level. I like these outer levels here, this 23 and 78. I like those as a probe area, or if we break up above here and haven't come back and tested this KP, I like to see this hold to come back and test to here. So that's a little tip on that. What I would stress about prediction points, and especially on the NASDAQ. So on the NASDAQ, you have a lot of volatility. And you have less liquidity, and basically what ends up happening is when you have less big institutional trading around a particular level, you can easily get a probe through that level. Okay, and so that's something that you have to keep in mind. So you want to be paying attention to how much are levels getting probed as we go throughout the day. And if you pay attention to what happened in the overnight session, if it's running off prediction points to the tick, great. Just go with that until something changes. But if it's probing through it a bit or it's coming just short of it a little bit, just pay attention to that. So let's start off here. We had some pretty decent selling. Down to what kind of looks like the middle of nowhere right here. If you draw in this fib right here. So didn't break this area right here, this 03, to come down into here. So there's that. Okay. So that's just from overnight. Now, when we came back up here, we traded in between these. So this is useful, but there was a lot of trading that happened in here. And as we start to come into the open here, I'm thinking a couple of things. This area kind of stands out to me. And obviously I'm looking at, we'd want to see a move up here to the 989 quarter, to that KP. This is something that we probably ought to keep an eye on. They probed this right here. So I'm looking for all these different things. So prediction points give me a, they give me a way that I can look at the market and interpret the data. But then I'm looking for how this all plays together and what the market is also telling me. Okay, so a couple of things that I want to point out. So very first here is we have this move right here that held, that held, that held, that held, that held. Then this right here kind of holds in this area, comes back down to here, pushes through here, comes back and holds here, probes a little bit up above this, but doesn't take out this previous probe up above when it came down and came back up here. This is what I'm saying. Pay attention to these kinds of things. You can see right here that never got up above there. So I'm certainly not a buyer in here, and I don't like all this trading that's happened in this area. So coming into the open, I'm not really, let's see, let's get a little bit closer to the open. Okay, that's closer. Okay, so in this area, I'm not really, I don't like anything right in this area necessarily. This has just been traded through so much. Most of the trading since midnight has happened right in here, so don't really love anything in this area. So if I'm looking for a bigger move, I'm not looking to try and get anything in here. If I want to scalp, there might be some scalp opportunities. So that's partly about knowing the kind of trader that I am and the kind of approach that I'm looking for and what I want to see happen here. So what would I be looking at? I would say I'm either looking for a strong move up and a pullback that I could buy, or I'm looking for a move lower and be able to buy that, or I'm looking for a move up that I could sell. Just basically in general, those are the types of things. And I don't trade the NASDAQ a lot, and I definitely don't recommend it for beginners. It's just really wild. It moves a lot. And it can be real tricky, to trade. Really, really tough. Has its pros and its cons. But so let's just kind of go through this candle by candle. And we're open. So there's the open. And I just don't love this range. I mean, if you're trying to force something, you could try to buy in here between 32 and 26, between here and here, if it came back into there. I just don't love anything in that range. So there's just been a lot of trading in there. And I'm thinking, is there a reason for an institutional trader to try and do something in here? And I just don't see it. Okay, so comes up to here and then comes down into this 20. So what I say, 32 to 26, somewhere in this range right here. So see, I'm not absolutely just set on, I mean, I can see if I put my crosshairs at 26 here, I can see there's been some activity. So yes, I'm informed that this CP is here at 32, but I'm not just going to blindly trade, especially because they haven't really respected the CP a lot overnight. So I'm going to pay attention to that. So that's one of the things I'm going to be looking at. If they can start to respect it, I'll start paying more attention to it. But right now, I don't really see that. So here's a move down to 27.50. This bounces a little bit. I honestly don't really remember what happens here next. So what I see, okay, there you go. So there's a move down, and I don't like a long off of this. So if you try this here, and it just depends. Even if you bought 32, it came back up here. And if your goal is to not lose money, you can always, look, you can get out of that trade, okay? So, if you're trying to manage your, risk on here. Okay, so there's a comment in the, so this CP, so there's a comment here from in our Discord channel. So When this came up above here, it came right through the CP. It came right down below the CP. It kind of stalled out and paused right here, but not the kind of respect that I'm looking for on a CP. And this is a cluster. These three prices together, this is a cluster. So what do we expect in a congestion zone like this? When it breaks out of this congestion zone, it's going to go to the checkpoint. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking for an immediate move. Here's the checkpoint. We're looking for an immediate move to the checkpoint. Okay, so gets a hard approach into the checkpoint. So I don't like it long here. This is where trade management comes into play. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat it and say, well, obviously you would have done this. Sometimes you get in a trade and then you get out of it at just the right price before it rips and goes your way. And that's just part of trading and learning how to trade and learning how to manage things like that. So give me one sec and we'll jump over to here. Okay, I'm back. I have an unhappy 3-year-old that wants to be in my office. Not going to work. So, nope, I'm here. I just have a life and 4 kids, and 2 of them are 3-year-olds, and I work at home. So, okay, whole reason I became a trader, really, so I could spend time with my kids. And I'm taking time away from that this morning so I can go through this with you guys. So, here we have a move down. If you bought this, look, we're not going to try and sugarcoat anything. Let's see, where did this come down to? So this hadn't been tested, so that's fine, this first one. And the second one, there'd been a little small pullback to it, but this is an area of interest for me for sure, because they made a pretty decent move up out of there. So I like the KPs down here. So if you can't handle the risk of this first one, that's at 98 and then 93, and then you need to give it some room below that. And if you can't handle that, then don't take this first trade. I mean, that's really as simple as it gets with that. So here's the move down to here, 93.25. And again, just a reminder, we're looking at a 2-minute chart so we can see the swings in between here. If you bought here, where you really need to be able to give it the risk down below here, down below this KP. And so that didn't happen. So that's up to you how you handle that, okay? But if you bought here, that's 93.25. It came to, what is that? Let's just do it like that. That's 91. So it came 2.25 points through that. Then it held to the tick right here on this one. Let's blow this up so we can see it. Held to the tick. So if you bought here, or maybe you wanted to wait and see and you didn't buy here, it bounced, it came right back. Either of these would be a valid entry into here, 93.25. What are we looking for? Well, we'd really like to see it get back up. Let me show you how I'm looking at this. I'd like to see it come back up to here and even back up to the CP at 32.25. But I'm going to pay attention to a few things. This area, I'm going to pay attention to right in here, right? And then I'm going to pay attention to probably that probe down below there, right there. So I'm not just going to say, okay, well, the KP's at 20.25, and then close my eyes and pretend like I don't see anything else that's going on today. I'm going, all right, so here's this at 1750 or 1775 on that swing right here. Okay, so let's just throw a line right there. Okay, so I don't actually really know what happens here, really, if I break it down candle by candle. So at this point, I know I'm not taking any risk on this trade. So, okay, doesn't get back up above 10.25, so I'm paying attention to that. That might be the midpoint, actually. Yeah. So it doesn't get back above the midpoint, really. I mean, it does by a point, but that's not really anything. So it doesn't get up above that midpoint, so that's probably another, that's an area to pay attention to there. I mean, Jaime, that's probably where he makes most of his money, is trading the midpoints. Next move comes down to here, 893.25 the KP. It probes below that. down to 85.50. So kind of tricky because it didn't quite get down to here, but relatively it went just a little bit through the midpoint. So midpoint's 80, let's call it 86.50. And so it broke that by 5 ticks, okay? And then it was off to the races. So you have to think about what's your mindset coming in here. Is your mindset, well, I'm going to get this trade, so maybe you missed this one. By the way, if we go back and look over here, see that 43, that's 43.75. It came within, oh, right there, 42.75. No, high was 43. So it came within 3 ticks of this KP. And this is kind of that classic head and shoulders look. You've got here, you have the left shoulder, and then obviously this would come like this. Here would be the head, right? And then comes down here, and this becomes the right shoulder. And that was kind of the idea behind this head and shoulders trade that traders came up with, was you have this probe through here, and then we come back and we retest right over here. So this is that head and shoulders look. It also lines up within 3 ticks of the KP. So if you sold within 3 ticks of that KP, this thing ripped. And where's your target? Well, out of the checkpoint, it's down to here, right? If it would have made an initial move at the open down to here and then come up higher, then that would have been our checkpoint up there. That's not how it went. The initial spike at the open spiked to there and then came down to the checkpoint. So that's really the first trade. Anyway, so let's come back over to here and look at this. So then the thing kind of just took off from here. So and then I'm thinking, where can I get in? So really no pullback to here, no pullback to here. And we don't know how this looked during the time the candle was forming. You could have tried to buy that or not. So now it's gone a fairly long ways, back up to that lower. Okay, so does it get, so there's the midpoint of the prediction points to the tick. It pulls back, here's 61.50, and it pulls back to 62.75, 5 ticks off of that. So what am I doing? I'm always looking back over here and I'm seeing what kind of, where are they trading over here? And I'm just seeing, I'm not just blindly trading off of that level. So pull back to here within 5 ticks of the KP, and then moved back up to key turns. Okay, this came back here. So 61.50, it probed it by a couple of points right here, a little bit of a reaction, gave you 3 or 3.5 points right here. And then you have to decide, are you keeping this trade? Maybe you just put your stop down below here, okay? So at this point, probably don't want to take a loss on a trade like this. So if you bought here, put your stop down below here, it gets this move up away from it. Probably don't want to turn it into a loser at this point. Comes back and touches. Now, who knows? Maybe it's going to rip higher and maybe you get stopped out unnecessarily, or maybe you keep your stop down here and you have 3 points of risk or something. But in my experience, when it comes into a level like this, moves away from the level and comes back to it, it's probably going to go through it, okay? And nothing always happens in trading, except the only thing that always happens is something different happens, okay? So that could hold. So I'm kind of looking at this area. I don't love the huge rip up that we already had, especially on a Fed morning, all that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of things coming into, we've got earnings, we've got Fed, just a lot of different things. So there's lots of room. This is very aggressive to be buying up here because we could still pull back to here. We can 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 still go lower. I mean, there's just a lot. And we didn't break out above. We barely peaked above the Globex high, but we didn't break this. And I think that's fairly telling. So you just have to know, if I'm buying something really high up here, this is fairly aggressive. So okay, so what happens? Probes through it. Even if you got long right here, look what happened. It came right back to it. This is where that being calm, being collected, seeing, okay, what's the market doing? Where can I get in? Where can I get out? What's happening with the market at that point. So came right back, tested right here, and then down to, oh, this was that 1750 that I had drawn in earlier. So came down to here, here's 20, probes through that a bit, hangs around here. Maybe you like a short, doesn't quite get back up into that CP. That makes it tricky. You know, and so you start going, okay, well, it hasn't gotten to that KP, it hasn't gotten to the CP up here. Nothing's really coming together the way that I'd like it to today. Sometimes you just go, that's just, it's not my day. It's not my, like, nothing's really clicking here for me. You know, nothing's really coming together. So sometimes you just have to know, like, okay, this isn't really, you know, not working the way that I want it to. Or maybe you're just not seeing it the way that you need to be seeing it. Or some days the market is just sort of, things are out of sync, waiting for Fed announcement, waiting for earnings. You know, where's it really going right now? Probably not really anywhere. So what happens? Kind of hangs around here. Here's 92, or sorry, here's 932, comes to 931.75. That's key turns if you want to short that. Comes back up here, you can short this when it comes back up here. Comes down, it bounces off of here. Again, we're kind of in the same scenario. Here's 17, it probes, oh, and there we are. So that's current up to where we are right now. So if you take off the, and look, oh my gosh, I literally just said this and I didn't even know it was happening. If you just, I'm not making this stuff up, and if you think I'm making it up after the fact, go watch the pre-market video that I did, or during the open, the video that I did on the S&P, where I literally called the low of the swing this morning and the high of the swing this morning to the tick, and literally every move on the way in between there to the tick. Okay, and I'm not saying that so you can say, wow, Ephraim's so great at this, or it's so, like, it's not about me. It's about that if you put in the time and you put in the work and you do what it takes to learn how to read the market and then know how to read you and how to understand you. What I do is much more about understanding me and what's going on with me than it is about understanding the market. And I have a pretty damn good idea of what's going on with the market, but I have a lot better idea of what's going on with me. So that's the thing that I can actually control. So I said over here when I didn't know, and even over here when I didn't know what had happened today, I said we can even come all the way back down to here, and if we break here, we can still go lower. There's still room to go lower. And look at what happened. It came all the way back to here. The KP here is, I guess, is that 98? It's kind of hard to tell on NASDAQ sometimes. And the low is 97.75, a tick through here. So here, this is about 20 something points. You can short 20 down to 98. You bought 98, it came back up into here. This is 40 points. If you sold here, bought here, covered here, that's 40 points. If you sold here, took some of your profit on the way down here, resold it, covered it, because below here, it's probably going to break down and go lower. So then we could look to sell a bounce. But again, where's the market going right now? Probably not anywhere. Even if it does make a run one way or the other, how long is that really going to last coming into FOMC and everything that's going on with that, right? So context is just extremely important. And look how it ripped out of this area and it didn't come back and test here until over here. So if I know it can come back to here, and I'm buying here and here and here and here and here, then I know that these are fairly aggressive, and I want to, be pretty aggressive about managing them. And the only reason I would buy something this high up is because I expect it to rip. Well, if it doesn't rip, okay. Here's a little hint, or a little something we're going to cover in some of the MAP training that we're going to be doing that's upcoming. So if you're a member of MAP, here's a sneak peek of what we're going to be doing with that. So see how it broke right here and didn't come back to test? It broke and didn't come back to test. Well, that's a sign that there's momentum for lower, because what you'd expect is it would So you'd expect it to break and come back and test. So see how on the way up it doesn't come back and test, and then breaks, and then what? Comes back and tests, but that doesn't get it. Comes back and tests, that doesn't get it. So the momentum's starting to die out right here. Strong, strong, breaks, keeps running. Breaks, keeps running, breaks, keeps running, breaks, keeps running, breaks, keeps running, breaks. It comes back. Tries, comes back. Breaks, doesn't come back. That's a sign, okay? Breaks, doesn't come back. This comes back, but that doesn't really count, okay? I mean, I want to see a break and see it come back, okay? That's what we're really looking for. Breaks, keeps running, breaks, keeps running. Breaks. It comes back. It comes back and tests right here. Okay, maybe kind of running out of some momentum down here. Okay, breaks, comes back and tests, comes down to here. That holds. Ran out of momentum. Came back lower. Ran out of momentum. This holds, starts moving back up. So you pick a direction and you stick with that direction and until something changes. So for today, we have the CP up here that did not get achieved. I would stick with buying for a retest back up to here, or back up to here, or back up to here. So that's 1410. I would stick with buying those primarily. I would try and be buying for a move up to there. So I wouldn't be looking for shorting, really, unless I was trying to scalp something, but I have my own thing about scalpers and why even do it. So what does that mean? It means I'm buying here. I'm trying to buy any of these, but I don't really get any of them. This is very high, but I can buy it here and turn it into break even, so that's fine. This is very, very aggressive. So even if a number of traders are using a 5 or 6 point stop, let's just say 5 points. 5 points. If I bought here and got stopped out for 5 points, I bought here, got stopped out for 5 points, bought here, got stopped out for 5 points. Okay, fine. So I lost 15 points, and then I bought right here, and it came back up to here, and this one trade paid me 20 points. So I'm up 5 points on these 4 trades, and if it runs, then I'm going to have a lot more because I'm really looking for up higher overall. But again, you have to keep context in play here. You have to remember what's going on. It's FOMC, we've got Apple, we've got Amazon, we've got Microsoft next week. Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple are 30% of the market. Okay, you can't just pretend like whatever their earnings are just going to get ignored. Okay, so here's a move up here. So coming up off of here, what are we looking for? Well, we'd really like to see it come back and test these levels that haven't been tested. So if I'm long from over here off 98, there's lots of room. There's 50 points or so, 45 points back up to here. So I can try 5, lose 5, lose 5, lose 5, get in here, hold it for 50. Okay, now I'm up 35 points on that. If I'm buying down here, I turn that into break even. This probes down through here. I would hate missing a run like this. So if it comes back, if it probes like that, and I would go, I better just get in, and I'm going to try and get in on one of these. I bet this is going to take a second, but let's just reload this and look at a 1 minute chart. So there's your stall out on a 1 minute chart right here. So when this whips down here like this, and it looks like the buyers are in here, that's for me. These are the classic reversal patterns that I look for, and I go, I better get in here, right? So I might try and buy it. I'm just going to try and find somewhere on here. There's a KP right here at 98. So this, when it came up above here, so this kind of held right here. This stalled out right here and did give a chance if you wanted to get in. It's a little bit high. It's kind of aggressive. It's chasing, but it is breaking up above. The morning here, this comes up to here. This is if you're looking, really micro. This is a 1 minute. You're getting this. It comes back to here. Here's the break here. It comes back and retests it. So if I bought here, it comes down here, it comes back up here, no follow through. I'm just gonna get out of this trade at break even. If I try it here, not really going anywhere. Okay, maybe I take a loss on here. try it here, take a loss on that. If I'm trying to trade it with a really tight stop loss. To me, these are silly trades. This is a silly trade to take a loss on when it does this. Anyway, then it comes what? Right back here, that holds, and now move up through there. You have to start to look back over, looking back over the past of what's happened and use that data to inform your decision-making process. Okay, so that's something that, it's just something that comes with time, and something that you just have to start to recognize. Okay, so what now? If we zoom out a bit on a 5-minute chart, well, now look at it. Came down here and held in the bigger picture, right? How do you know it was going to hold? You don't know it was going to hold. Okay, you just have to try it sometimes. When it looks like that's a reversal, guess what? We don't get paid if we don't take risks. So we go, that looks like a reversal, I better get in. So where does it move? It comes all the way up here. You try it here, it doesn't really quite work out. You break even on it. It comes down here, and then where does it go? Back up to here. So far, this trade has paid over 30 points on this trade from here back to here, and this is kind of a no-brainer. You should easily come back and test here or even here. So doesn't mean it's going to happen all right now, but if I keep the bigger picture in mind. So look, are you going to have losses? Every system's going to have losses. Every trader's going to take losses. Every methodology is going to have times when it doesn't work. Okay, that's going to happen. But do you have an edge? Can you stick with that edge? And can you take a number of losses and still stick with it? And that's really, the sign of a real trader is that, do you trust your edge? Can you stick with it? And can you take 5-10 losses in a row and stay with it and not be impacted by that? So hopefully that's helpful. And if you have questions, then post them in the video, post them in the Discord. Happy to help in any way or answer any questions. But just wanted to go over more of a concept and then really fixed, rigid prices of this tick or that tick, although sometimes it does certainly play out that way. So thanks for tuning in, and if you've watched the pre and post market videos, we'll see you this afternoon in the review for the S&P.